Okay, Assalamualaikum everyone. Hi Rachel, hi Dennis. Nice to see you, Paul.
Hi.
Paul and Susan.
Hello.
Right, okay, there seems to be a bit of a lag. I hope this doesn't continue. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to kick off, obviously, of the next... I'm just going to try and take them. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
brilliant. Yeah, no, that's getting a bit of an echo. Right, so what we're going to do over the next 45 minutes, Rachel, Paul, Dennis and Susan have just returned from Pakistan, having spent 16 days there. So we're going to be doing a Q&A session covering off exactly what they saw, what they experienced, and hopefully I'll be doing less of the talking, and I'm really going to let Rachel, Paul, Dennis and Susan do all the talking. But obviously, before we kick off, I do want to address the elephant in the room. We are all aware of the news over the last couple of days, and I'm specifically referring to the incident that happened in Balochistan. So you would have seen the headlines in BBC, CNN, or whatever news portal you watch, and that may well have concerned you, which is understandably when you aren't familiar with the geography of the country and you don't know context of size and proximity. So what I wanted to do, and I share this with a lot of with kind of the subscribers, but not all of you subscribed, so you may not have seen this. So this is a map of Pakistan, and to put it into context, where you can see the red cross, that is where Balochistan is, and that is where the incident happened. Now, we are aware that there has been some trouble in Balochistan for a number of years now. This is no new news for us living in Pakistan, and it's one of the key reasons that as beautiful as Balochistan is in terms of handicraft and natural beauty, unfortunately, it's not really an area we cover for that very reason. Where you can see the green ticks, that's kind of pretty much the areas we cover. So the north of Pakistan, Gilgit-Baltistan, Punjab, Sindh. Now, Peshawar is there, and that I know is a debatable tick there because the FCO does have Peshawar permanently as a place not to visit. I'm from Peshawar, my family lives there, but I'm not going to go into detail there because later on we'll be talking to Rachel, Paul, Dennis, Susan at their time in Peshawar, and they can tell you firsthand about how safe they felt when they were in Peshawar. But again, to give you context, if you were in the north, for example, in Hunza, Skardu, and the incident happened in Balochistan, that's the same as you being in London and the incident happened somewhere in France. Now, that's how far in the distance it is. So hopefully that's kind of addressed that question and hopefully alleviated some of your concerns. So before we go on to speak to Rachel, I've taken the liberty of doing a short video reel of some of the fantastic pictures they've shared with me on the WhatsApp group we created. Now, this isn't a plug for Apple. I've not been sponsored by Apple at all, but I do want to say the pictures they took, I could not believe they were off an iPhone 14. I mean, they were incredible. So my apologies in advance, Dennis, Susan, Rachel, Paul, if I haven't chosen the best pictures, but it's just, as I said, it helps those of you who are watching give you a flavour of their holiday. So at least when they're talking about some places, you've got some visuals to kind of think about. So let me just put that on stage. Start the video from the beginning. hope I've done justice.
It's probably a bit strange for people to see pictures of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, do you want to explain that one, Rachel?
Well, we were a bit surprised ourselves. Turns out it's in Karachi, not Paris, after all, the Eiffel Tower.
But it was on the Champs-Elysees.
But honestly, I could have done without it.
That wasn't the cultural aspect you wanted to see.
No.
Although it does compare favourably with the Big Ben Tower that they've got in Calcutta in India. So
I just found it totally bizarre.
it was.
And not in a good way, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, that's completely understand. Right, so let's kick off with what I've done. I've put together some questions for myself as a prompt, just so I don't forget any questions. So let's start from the beginning, like back before you even booked. So we can take it in turns, or whoever wants to answer the question. So how did Pakistan come up on your radar?
We saw you at the Destination show 2 years ago.
Had you ever considered Pakistan prior to that?
No.
Okay.
Just somewhere we haven't got any knowledge of at all.
Which
what
is
was there?
Very sad and ignorant of us.
Okay. We know people who are either from Pakistan or have been there, so we've been kind of talking about it for a long time, really, and then you were the deciding factor, Sadia, because we were at the travel show and we got chatting with you and thought, yeah, let's go for it. Otherwise, we'd still be thinking about it now.
Brilliant. That's really good to know. And then, Susan, I mean, Susan, don't be so harsh on yourself. I think, we're partly to blame as a country. We've not done ourselves much service in terms by way of marketing. But just out of curiosity, what were your perceptions, or did you have any perceptions prior to our conversation?
I'm not sure I did, to be honest. And looking at it retrospectively, it's completely stupid, because I hate to say it, Pakistan and India were one big country at one point. So why wouldn't you have similar things? And you had even bigger and better things.
I think my sort of perceptions of what it would be like are probably based on what we read and what we see and hear on the news, and that was sort of largely a pretty poor country with bad infrastructure and a population who are largely unfriendly to the West. That's, I think, the perception that we get, and the reality is the infrastructure is actually very, very good, and the motorways and things really are excellent. Yes, there are some bad roads, but there's some bad roads everywhere.
You'll see the potholes here.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's India without the tourists. To be honest with you, there are as many wonderful sights to see, and people are incredibly photogenic and so on, just as they are in India. And as Sue says, it's all part of the same subcontinent. So why would it be any different, particularly? But I think the big surprise to me actually was how friendly and welcoming everybody was.
Oh, the people were so generous and
yeah,
lovely.
I mean, to the extent sometimes you just think, please just don't say hello. Please don't ask me where I'm from. Don't welcome me to Pakistan for the 14th time today. No, I mean, they are incredibly friendly and welcoming people, and very curious. And I guess they don't see many foreigners, and they want to practice their English, and why not?
Yeah, because I had quite a bizarre experience on a railway station platform. I decided I needed a drink and a packet of crisps. So I went up to this little kiosk. There was a gentleman in there, so I asked for the crisps and the drink. Went to ask how much. He said, "You are my guest," and didn't want any money for them. But I'd worked out how much they were and just gave him the money. But it seemed so bizarre. I've never been anywhere else where a retail outlet has offered you the items for free.
And I had the same experience. There was a man with plastic bags with sort of radishes and cucumbers and with chili powder, and we were just looking, and he said, "Here, have one." just giving things to you. And everywhere we went, I mean, we tended to refuse, but have a cup of tea, have a cup of tea, have a cup of tea. No, 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 no. So
I had the same at the border crossing, that the man insisted on giving me a badge and a ribbon, and he didn't want to be paid.
yeah.
Oh, this is when you went to the Varga border in
Yes.
Lahore. Yeah. Actually, speaking of which, of the Varga border, so Rachel and Paul, obviously I get asked this question a lot, and I know actually it's probably relevant to both of you. Is, if I've been to India, is it going to be a problem to come to Pakistan? So obviously, Dennis Susan, you came straight from the UK, but you had a visa in your Indian visa print in your passport. And Rachel and Paul, you interestingly joined our tour via the Varga border, didn't you? You came into Pakistan via India. So talk me through how was it? How did you find it?
Easy.
Yeah,
So
we had no problem getting our visas.
yeah, we were thinking, what's it going to be like? And I looked up a blog and somebody said how to do it. But actually, I mean, you arrive and you go through the border. And the thing is, when we arrived, there was a man sitting on a plastic chair who looked at our passport and waved us on, and another man, oh, welcome to Pakistan. And it was just really easy and really friendly.
Yeah. I mean, there was far more bureaucracy, it has to be said, leaving India than arriving in Pakistan. I think our passports were checked, we think 7 times, from getting to the actual border post itself to walking through into no man's land and so on. But once, as Rachel says, once we got into Pakistan itself, I think they were checked sort of once by somebody just casually glancing to see if you've got a passport. And then obviously at the official desk, then where they stamp everything and so on. So it was all very quick and straightforward. The bit that's sort of a bit of a pain, but I know they're working on it, is it's quite a long journey on foot. It's probably 3/4 of a mile between the sort of the Indian exit point and the Pakistani arrival point.
Right.
I think there used to be a little bus or something like that at one time. That all the roads are being dug up, so it's all very uneven and so on. So you've either got to walk yourself that distance or use one of the porters. So we sort of used a porter. So that's something that I'm sure is being rectified, because a lot of building work was going on. So hopefully that won't be like that for a little while.
And the only other thing is, in India we were using Uber, and it didn't seem to work there. I mean, you'd arranged a transfer for us, so that was fantastic. Yeah. Had we not had a transfer the other end, I mean, there may have been buses, but I don't know quite how you'd move on to Lahore.
Yeah, so I think just on that, because my husband, so Faraz was in Lahore last week, and I'd heard of the Careem app, which is the equivalent of Uber, but actually he said there's another app in Pakistan called iDrive. So which he basically, and actually the way it works is that you have a choice of a motorbike, a rickshaw, or a car, and I think there's a bit of a bidding process of kind of to get the fare. So he said that was very efficient. So I think that's
the only thing about that is we were going to use that in India, but you need an Indian phone number. I don't know whether that did he have a British?
He had a British number. He didn't have a Pakistani number.
Yeah, because it's a really good app, because you set your price.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, so he had an eSIM, but it was a UK number. It wasn't a Pakistani number.
I think we had more bureaucracy leaving Pakistan than coming in.
Okay, tell me about that.
It was rather bizarre. We got to the check-in desk at the airport, handed the passports over.
And the luggage.
The lady there flicked through the passport and then said, "Can I see your visa paperwork?" And she wanted the original paperwork we had saying we had a visa, though the passport was stamped with the visa.
Yeah.
Which, wherever we've travelled before, we've never ever had that.
And then they checked it at
passport control. They wanted the paperwork again there.
Oh, wow.
And I do think for future travellers, you need to tell them that, because I'd pack the visas at the bottom of the suitcase.
No, and
Dennis had it on his phone, but otherwise it had been unpacking all the dirty laundry.
Did you, Rachel and Paul, did you have the same issue when you left?
Well, we did with both India and Pakistan. So I think it is actually a good idea that although both countries issue e-visas, and we can maybe come on to how easy or difficult they are to get maybe later on, but for some reason they actually want to see a printout of it.
We never had it in India. Never had it in India.
Well, we most certainly did. So I think it's probably a good idea for anybody that's visiting either or both of those countries to actually just print the thing off, and then if you don't need it, you don't need it. But
ours was printed off, but I packed it. So.
Because you don't think when you're leaving the country,
they're not worried about you leaving.
But they were.
But yeah. I just think, Sadia, it's something to tell your clients that.
Yeah.
Take hand
no, that's all valid feedback, and absolutely moving forward I'll make sure I have.
It wasn't an issue, not an issue, but you just think, I'm leaving, why do they want it?
Logically I agree. You'd think it'd be the other way around, that
and it's stamped in your passport to say you've got the visa.
No, I will also feed that back to the tourism board, just to say, look, can we address this, because they're quite good, they do respond to feedback. Okay, we've kind of covered this question, but I thought, did Pakistan surprise or disappoint you? I suppose, I know you broadly said, but maybe in a couple of sentences.
It exceeded my expectations by a long way.
Yeah.
And also the historic sites were often a lot bigger than I was expecting.
Right.
Sites of 3,500 BC, they're relatively small, but they were small, either large towns or small cities, which I wasn't expecting. And one of the forts, I hadn't realised they'd got some that were about a mile across, and the walls were getting on for 25 metres high.
Was that the Ranicourt Fort? The one that was the Great Wall of Sind? Yeah, absolutely.
No, the forts were wonderful. The forts were outstanding. They were just.
I think what surprised me was the variety of things to see. Because if I'm honest, one of my I'd heard the north was beautiful, and I realised we couldn't go because of the time of year. So I'd imagined that we were going to see a lot of mosques, which is fine, but far from it. There's so much else to see that's of interest, and I think that was one of the big surprises for me. Huge Buddhist sites and monasteries, Hindu temples, the shrine. Sikh, the shrine, the forts. There's just so much to see that I had no idea about.
No.
And I think that was one of my kind of slight bugbears, where I know. And look, I shouldn't say it's bugbear. Pakistan's got some great press in January, February. But what I found is that all the press, tourist or travel press, were covering the northern bits. As you said, Rachel, you'd heard of the northern bit. And I kind of feel sometimes that, it makes Pakistan look to be a one-dimensional country. And absolutely, we've got mountains, peaceful lands. As you say, this part of Pakistan, we've got, I think, 8 different UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And you got to see many of them. And we've got,
we saw all of them.
Yeah, and that's what most of them they're all in the south, and I kind of feel, how can the press or travelers overlook, all of this? And I think, Dennis, you mentioned, you talked about the old, the 3000 BC civilizations. I mean, it's got the Indus Valley civilization, which is the oldest civilization in the world, and yet no one's talking about it.
No. None of our friends know anything about any of it, and they're just amazed at what we have seen.
Oh, fantastic! Have you already done the slideshow party then at your place?
Not yet. That'll be Christmas. But I hate to say it, I'm not sure many of our friends would view it as a holiday.
Is that because there's a lot of on the road and a lot of stuff that you're doing?
Yes, you're more travellers rather than holiday makers.
You have to be a traveller for this.
Yeah.
It's not a holiday, it's a travelling experience.
It's interesting because I say sometimes, I kind of recommend if you're going to do it, it's maybe book it with Emirates so that on the way back you can do stop off in Dubai and spend 3 days by a pool, just relax and before you go back because you almost need a holiday after the holiday because it is appreciate, as you say, quite full on with what you're seeing and being
But
on the road.
That's what we expected. So if anyone asked me, I would tell them that, it's not a holiday, it's an experience. There is a different mindset to me. A lot of people we know, a holiday means 2 weeks lying on a beach, which obviously that isn't.
Yeah.
It suited us totally. Totally.
I mean, not sort of wanting to scare anybody else off because obviously it's a big country, so there are large distances to cover and there's lots to see. There weren't any, everybody on the bus by 5:30 a.m. starts or anything like that. It was all quite civilized, 8:30, 9 o'clock start. Probably never spent more than 2.5 hours traveling before there was a break of some description, either just to get a bite to eat, go to the loo, or look at the fort or something like that. So although some of the travelling days, yes, they were quite long, it was quite doable. And, we were very lucky. We had a very comfortable vehicle. We had a very pleasant, very careful driver, an excellent guide. So, it wasn't kind of as energetic as other trips have been on, admittedly a few years ago. That I wouldn't necessarily want to do again, but it's although it's full on, it's quite relaxed as well.
Yeah. Oh, I agree, Paul, but I think you'd have to choose your friends very carefully to recommend it.
Not for everyone.
Yeah.
No, not for everyone. Amir and Habib, our driver, were excellent. I cannot fault either of them. Habib had a lot of very long driving days, not due to his own problems. There were a few hiccups, but both of them were excellent. And I felt safe in the bus, totally.
Fantastic. I've got one question about the disappointment. Before I ask that, Martin's asked a question. So he's asking, what else did you wish you had taken with you on your trip?
What else had I taken?
Yeah, I mean, was there... I'm Martin, if you're still watching, you can just clarify that question. I'm assuming he means and correct me if I'm wrong, Martin, but was there any prep that perhaps you wish you had done more of before you went on the trip? Or I hope I've got it right.
No, I don't think so. No.
I suppose we were quite fortunate in that we were leaving the UK at a cold time of year. We were actually in India for a couple of months before. So you're kind of going with warmish clothes, which you certainly need in the north. Not necessarily in the daytime. We were sort of happily walking around in t-shirts. Of course, all the locals are all wrapped up in anoraks and woolly hats and so on, because for them it's very cold. But it did get quite chilly in the evening. So I think if people are going in the winter and they're going to the north, then you do definitely need a slightly warmer, just a jumper or a jacket or something like that.
A fleece or something.
Very, very warm. So pleasantly warm. So not necessary there. But, so you just do need sort of clothing for different types of areas, really. Long trousers do come in quite handy because there are sort of lots of visitors to shrines and things like that where modesty is the order of the day. And I was wearing a sarong quite a lot, which again might have attracted a certain amount of local interest
and amusement.
So I think certainly for ladies to kind of have their shoulders covered and men to have their legs covered is probably not a bad idea as well.
Yeah, zip-off trousers would probably be quite useful for some days.
That would cause even more interest, I suspect.
Yeah.
Sorry, so Martin just got back to me. So he's saying what he meant, like for example, you talked about having the paper copy of the visa to hand to make sure you got printout. So any other things, I think, like documentation.
No, but we could talk a little bit about money because the cash points you can get money out of cash points. Not every cash point, if you have an international card, and you can only get a certain amount of money out. So I think
it was about £50.
Thousands maximum.
so you take the money out and you get charged an amount for doing it, and so then you get another amount out. However, if you have cash, you actually get a better rate and there's no commission. So you're better off taking cash with you and changing cash.
Yeah, you can use international credit cards in the hotels and restaurants and so on in the bigger cities. They're not a problem. But a lot of smaller places, for some reason, their equipment isn't geared up to international. So so you do have to use cash. So it's quite a good idea to take cash.
Having said that, we had a strange situation in a few places where there were two prices. So if you paid by cash, it was more expensive than if you paid by card, and it's to do with the tax, I think, the
Sales tax. Yes.
Yeah, I heard about that from actually because my husband just, as I said, he just got back and he said the same thing because it was really bizarre. Where normally if you pay by cash, it's cheaper. But here he goes, there are places I didn't want to use my card, but I used it because it would be cheaper if I used my card.
We had several restaurants that it was cheaper to pay by card.
Yeah, if you paid cash, it was 16% tax. If you paid by card, it was 6%.
Quite a difference.
Yeah. But also in one restaurant, we asked, do you take credit cards? Yes. Do you take international credit cards? We don't know. And the gentleman brought his cash card machine along to our table. He had 10 rupees in his hand and said, I will charge 10 rupees to your card. We'll see what happens. Here is the 10 rupees. And so he just tapped the machine and it went through. And he said, yes, I accept international cards. He'd never accepted an international card before.
I mean, I think that just says it all. I mean, and you would have noticed that international tourism in Pakistan is still so low that, and they're seeing international, customers or clients is still quite a novelty. It's not something, I think relative to other destinations, and you will have noticed with all the people wanting to come take selfies and ask you, with the interest and intrigue why you've come to Pakistan. So I think, that's, just one of those things.
I think as a group, we only saw 2 other European tourists, a German couple. I don't remember any others. Do you?
Yeah, there was a guy who seemed to be travelling on his own. We saw in Lahore, I think.
I think there was
Japanese in Peshawar. There was a Japanese group of ladies, but other than that, don't recall any tourists at all.
Yeah, but you said Martin was asking about things that disappoint and surprise things. Actually, from the money point of view, you don't need a lot of money. So even if you take cash, if as a couple you took £400 in cash, that would probably last you the whole trip.
And thank you for bringing that up, Dennis, because actually I was going to say that very question that often I get asked the question by clients, how much money should we take? And it's very hard for me to advise because, although I've never really go to Pakistan really as a tourist. So for me, my expenditure is obviously very different to perhaps tourists like yourself. So that's, really helpful to know. So you did a 16-day trip, didn't you? So
yeah.
In fact, weren't you, Dennis?
Unless you go shopping, Dennis.
Well, that's
Sorry?
Unless you go shopping.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah.
We're not allowed to do that. I mean, the Best Westin in Islamabad, an evening meal with 2 soft drinks cost us £3 a head.
that was probably a little bit on the cheaper side. I think if people allow maybe about £7 or £8 for a
head,
dinner,
a day.
You missed, Paul and Rachel, you missed a really good restaurant in Karachi.
Oh.
Which one did you go to? Was it Karachi?
But the one in the city, not on the outskirts, in the shopping centre.
Karachi.
No, so Karachi's the one by the sea, by Clifton.
No, they've got one right 5-minute walk from the hotel.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's supposed to be
Ocean Mall.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So how was that? Because Karachi is supposed to be like the top end restaurant.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Absolutely superb.
Dennis had 2 racks of lamb for £5 with a drink.
Wow.
You really smashed out then, Dennis.
No. And it literally was a 5-minute walk from the hotel.
Speaking of the hotel, how did you both find the Ambience Hotel?
Love them.
Yeah.
I think you're on a good back there.
Because they're opening one in Islamabad, aren't they?
They are, and I think they're opening one in Hunza as well, up north as well.
Yes.
No, I think the Hunza one is already open.
Actually, you're right. The Hunza one is open. Yes, that's one where we're just testing it out a bit because we've just had a couple of mixed reviews on that in terms of the rooms.
I would say that the Sichuan Divine Hotel.
Oh yeah. Yes.
That's very basic.
Is that the one in the kind of Sukkar or near Multan? Or...
Don't ask me, I can't remember.
I'm aware of that.
The only hotel that we rated as a little bit, but it was the only hotel.
I was just about to say, because to be fair, John did send me a private message and he actually shared me some pictures and I did raise it with my team and I said, look, this is really bad, is there no? And they said, so it's the best one.
It's the only hotel.
So, as you say, sometimes restricted with the infrastructure.
It was in the place where we went to the Sufi dancing and I wouldn't have wanted to miss that experience.
No, it wasn't the Sufi dancing.
Wasn't it?
No, this was the one where you had 2 toilets in your bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay, right. I've got some questions here. Sorry, just from people who are watching. So one of the questions is from Yasmin. She's saying, "Did any of you get any upset tummies or sickness?"
No.
Well, we arrived with one, so I didn't know that.
You imported it, Paul. You imported it.
We'd spent two months going around India without a problem, and we've been in Pakistan for 3 hours, and we were ill. So no, I think in fairness, we brought ours with us. But
I ate salad with no issue.
Yeah. No, I mean, once we got over, we know we got it in India because we both woke up the morning we were leaving saying, "Oh, I feel a bit strange," but after that, we were fine.
Amir, our guide, was very diligent on choosing restaurants he thought the standard was up to our sadly UK standards.
Yeah, and all the hotels provided bottled water.
Yes.
It's very easy to buy.
And on the bus.
So people don't really need to worry about that. To be honest with you, these sorts of stomach upsets can happen absolutely anywhere in the world, and I don't think
it
was any more problematic in Pakistan than it would be in many other countries. So I don't think people need to worry on June. But if if a restaurant doesn't look very clean and there's nobody in it, well then don't go in. If it's busy and it looks clean and tidy and it's full of people, then chances are the food's going to be good and it's going to be the hygiene's going to be good as well. So I think people have to use their common sense, but it can be a bit luck of the draw, and but usually these things only last about 24 hours. So
yeah, and I always say, like the 2 medications you absolutely should take on any holiday is Imodium and Nurofen. If you've got that, then you're sorted, because invariably, as you say, it is luck of the draw, but just in case, at least then you've got your medication with you. So.
Having said that, there are pharmacies everywhere, and because at one point actually we did get a bit of a cough, and you go and they've got everything you need in the pharmacy.
Yeah. Okay. So, right. I've got one more question. Sorry, I've got a few questions. So one of the other questions I've got is, so we are going to come on to this, but the question is, did you have to get specialist insurance for Peshawar If yes, did you only need to get it for that part of the trip, or did you have to then get it for the whole trip?
We did get it. We got it for the whole trip.
Okay.
Um,
And
well,
who did?
I'm sorry, you carry on. Yeah.
Dennis,
Oh,
who did?
sorry.
Sorry.
Which company was it with, Dennis?
Campbell Irving, we found, was the most cost effective.
Well, we have an annual policy. I did look at, thanks Dennis for that link, did look at it. There didn't seem to be an option for just buying insurance for 2 days. So it was going to be £300-400 or something for the two of us. So we just, I'm afraid we just took a chance on it and decided that if we get kidnapped, well, that's unfortunate. If we get ill, we'll just have to hang on, until we're not in Peshawar. I suppose it's entirely up to the individual. If you're just buying the policy for that particular trip, then you might as well include that particular aspect of it. But it's entirely up to the individual. We did think about doing it, but just thought, it's additional expense. The likelihood of anything happening was not great, so just
And Dennis, sorry, if you don't mind answering the question, how much did you pay for your insurance? Just so that...
For the two of us, it's 400 and a few pounds.
Okay, fine.
Which is more than our annual travel insurance, which is global.
Yeah. So it's fine. And just while we're talking about topic of Peshawar, how did you find your time in Peshawar? I always get the question. In fact, I was speaking to a lady only a few weeks ago who was interested in this tour, and then she saw the Peshawar, and then she decided against it. She goes, "Oh, I'll wait for a trip that doesn't have Peshawar in it." And I did reassure her. I said, "Look, I'm from Peshawar, and my family's there. It's perfectly safe, and you can get extra insurance." But I don't think she was. I don't think she believed me, or she was like, "Well, but my family would be very uncomfortable with me going to Peshawar."
I have no idea what the problem is my answer, because I didn't feel unsafe at any point, at any place, at any time.
Yeah, we were given in those areas the armed escorts, but on occasions we'd go to a swap over point. There wasn't anybody at the swap over point, because they said, "Oh, just carry on without the security." You think, so why are they giving us security?
I think the security bit actually most probably puts people off.
But I know that you've tried explaining that to the government, haven't you?
We have, yeah, and we have said actually it draws more attention, and rather than anything else. But as I said, because of the way it works in Pakistan, it's not centralized. It's every province has their own policy of how they do it. So
there's so many of them.
Yeah,
we had dozens in a day. I mean, it's just.
I mean, trust me,
they were lovely. They were lovely, but I don't know what they're doing.
On the subject of Peshawar, it definitely is worth visiting. We loved it. I loved the bazaar. I love visiting the old Caravan Sarai. Is that what you call it? Caravan Sarai. The old, the houses. We went to the bazaar. The bazaar was fantastic. What else? The place with the
hotel was lovely.
Yeah, so that's a new one, Peshawar Barracks. I think they only did it about a few years ago, where they converted the old fort into a hotel, which I think is brilliant.
No, that was lovely. The only thing that I know, what are you doing? Rachel and I agree with, and it is totally a cultural thing, because it's a dry country, there's no bar. Whereas a nation, after dinner, we like to go and sit and have a drink.
And talk.
And talk. So if they had an area where, not to sell alcohol, but you could go and have a drink and just chat in the evening, we would like that. It was just, it's our culture, not your culture. It's a very different thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. But because I know, for example, in like PC and Luxus and some of the, and maybe ambient sites, because I haven't been to the one in Lahore, but normally, they've got the cafe or the restaurant area, like the lobby area, where they've got chairs and tea where you can congregate and order a drink, like a soft drink or tea. Did you not find that? Or
No,
wasn't
obvious.
No, they had a chair in the lobby, but it's not a place you can go and relax in, I think is what I'm trying to say. And,
yeah,
but it is very much a cultural thing.
Yeah.
We if you travel other places in the world, you have your dinner and then you retire to, I hate to say it, a bar. It doesn't have to be alcohol. But
I understand what you mean. No, I completely understand.
no, I think that might be something for the international tourists. They're missing a beat.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's really.
I got totally addicted to mint margaritas. And I'll be quite happy to sit and drink that. But it's having some. I mean, the place in Peshawar, there was the restaurant or the lobby. There was nowhere else.
Oh, in Peshawar Barracks. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Whereas if you had somewhere you could go and retire to after your meal and just sit.
Lounge, really.
Yeah.
But
Also, the other thing we found very culturally different was you'd order a meal with your soft drinks, but to try and get them to bring the soft drinks early was so difficult.
Because they drink them at the end of the meal.
And so, you'd be halfway through your meal, then the soft drinks had arrived after 3 or 4 prompts.
Right. Okay.
It's a cultural thing. Totally a cultural thing. And that's what travelling's about. So
I'm just going to stop because I've just got Martin's asked a couple of questions. So one question he's asked is, did you try the street food or did you stick to the restaurants? And then the other question he's just asked is, can you talk more about the security? Did they accompany you in addition to the guide and driver during your time in Peshawar? So
we didn't eat street food because Amir, our guide, didn't think it was sensible. And security?
They was mainly either they were leading us in a vehicle in front, but on occasions when there seemed to be a shortage of vehicles, they got into the vehicle, but would sit in the front with the driver.
Yeah, I mean, with regard to the street food, we certainly did buy things like fruit.
We bought fruit. Yes, we bought fruit.
I'm not sure, in a way, there is quite as much street food option there as there is in, say, in India, where there are lots of little snack stalls and so on. There didn't seem to be quite as much in Pakistan, or maybe we just didn't particularly notice it. I mean, with regard to the security, yeah, I mean, you're exactly right, Sadia, that all it does is just draw attention to people with a police car racing along and a bus behind. People are going to look and wonder who are these important people behind. So I can well understand why, they don't want to get tourists murdered or kidnapped or whatever. But on the other hand, the country is pretty safe anyway in most areas. But there was a slight nuisance, I think it was in 2 or 3 different places where we were just, in the evening, we were just taken to the hotel after the day and told, sorry, but you can't leave the hotel, so you've got to eat here and you can't go and wander out because the police won't allow it. Having said which, in some of those places, in fairness, there wasn't that much to wander out to, but it would be nice for us to take that decision rather than the authorities. But we understand, people have to work under the system that there is. So there were kind of minor inconveniences, I would say, rather than major handicaps. And the police were certainly always very, very friendly.
Oh, they were great. You would chat to them. It wasn't, they weren't scary or anything.
They're very friendly.
And they liked to find out about us, and we liked to find out about their lives. So, it was all very amicable.
We could have done without it.
I know, because I did feel, because I think one evening when I could hear, see in the WhatsApp group that you're all congregating and having a meal at the hotel, and I was messaging Amir privately, and I said, what happened to that restaurant I recommended you to take them to? Because I think I mentioned to you, Rachel, something. There's this lovely restaurant in Multan, which is called like the Fountain Restaurant. So you're sitting and having a meal, and there's these beautiful fountains around you. But then, yeah, Amir said, no, unfortunately, the police aren't allowing you to leave the hotel. So I think, yeah, when I had that question earlier, which like, what was your disappointment? I kind of feel that was, I think, equally just as much for me as well, because I feel, your trip was you were enjoying it so much, and I just felt, and I felt I think more for the economy of Multan, thinking, tourism actually brings in and helps local businesses, local restaurants, local cafes, and I just felt sorry for them that they couldn't leverage from the opportunity where you could go and enjoy, because I think you and but you both the ladies, you wanted to go to the bazaar in Multan as well, and you were told you couldn't go.
Yes.
But we did see plenty of bazaars, so we can't complain too much.
Brilliant. Now, what were your favourite moments? Do you have a specific highlight?
The truck stop.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
The
we love
trucks were amazing.
Yeah.
They stopped the whole place for working for about 2 hours. It was just wonderful. They thought we were completely mad, but
we even bought some truck art.
We bought truck art, yes.
Oh, did you? What did you buy?
Oh, fishes and birds. Oh, Rachel's more organised than I am.
Oh, beautiful. Right, is that a fish?
Yeah.
Fish, yes.
Oh,
With bells.
very
Birds.
Another fish.
There's another fish. What on earth are we going to do with them?
Paul, don't be boring.
But they were only a couple of pounds each.
For the whole lot.
That, I don't think.
Yeah. No, the truck. We went to a wedding, and that was amazing. I mean, the wedding itself, there wasn't a lot happening, but just the whole experience of going was incredible. Just to be part of something like that.
Yeah, and we weren't the only important guests there, because the Nawab, who's the hereditary ruler of that particular area, he was also invited to come along. He had drums banging to announce his arrival. We didn't get that, but
and four
off guns with his escort.
Yes, we had our own armed escort while we had lunch. Yeah.
I mean, Amir was very good, the guy that he knew what we were interested in. So one day he took us to a little place, a roadside place that produced sugar from sugar cane. That, things like that, so interesting. There was a huge, I think you call it a herd of camels. He stopped the bus so that we could go up and see all the camels.
Amir was wonderful at looking for things that he thought we might like. Why can't I wave my arms?
Because you completely covered the camera.
Oh, nice.
Sorry?
No, I think it's quite cute. You're waving your arms. I love it.
Thank you. But, he saw things on the side of the road and said to Paul Habib, turn around again. And he showed us so much stuff. Not on the itinerary.
Yeah, I think, sorry, I'll just say one more thing. I think it was that surprise. You on paper, you think, oh, a fort, right. And then you turn up and you'd be staggered at the scale of this fort, and it was absolutely fantastic. Shrine, oh, right. But when you arrived, the tiles and, just everything about it was stunning.
I mean, I was just looking at all of your collection of pictures in that WhatsApp group, and I'm sure that's just a select few that you shared. I was also thinking you could actually have an exhibition, an art exhibition, just for those pictures, because they were stunning. They were beautiful pictures.
What didn't you like? I'll be honest about that one. For me, it was I prefer vegetarian food, and most restaurants, the bulk of the menu is meat. So that was really the only thing that, you know. I mean, I always found enough to eat, but I would have liked more vegetables.
Yeah. I think if you're a vegan or vegetarian,
You'd
you
never
would
come.
really
No.
struggle.
A vegan would never get out.
Yeah, I mean, I've had one vegetarian client in all my time that we took to Pakistan from the US. I think she was there for 10 days. We managed to find, lentils and, spinach thing. But I think it was interesting because obviously, as you know, Pakistan, we're a meat-eating nation. So the driver was in shock that this woman had never eaten meat before. So he would keep asking, like, are you sure you've never eaten meat? Have you never been tempted? So I think her feedback to me, she goes, it was a lovely trip, but you do need to just train your drivers or your guides to be a bit respectful because not everyone eats meat. And she, I think, was getting quite irritated by the end.
Well, I think it's interesting because you go to the market, there were the most gorgeous looking cauliflowers and aubergine and things like that. And I thought, where are they? But the guide said, well, that's what you eat at home. That's home cooking. And, in a way, people don't want to pay to go out and eat vegetables. They want to pay to go out and eat meat. And that made sense.
Yeah.
I put it on a par with sort of Russia and Eastern Europe in the late 1980s, early 1990s, in terms of the preponderance of meat dishes and so on, and the complete bafflement as to why anybody would want to just eat vegetables. So it's sort of on a par with that, where tourism there was very new, and that was what local people ate. And obviously, as tourism increases in numbers, hopefully in Pakistan, then restaurants and so on will start adapting their menus more to Western tastes. But it's kind of early days, and I suppose in a way these are all slightly first world problems that we're putting forward. So yeah. I just think you go to somebody else's country, they're going to do some things better than you, they're going to do some things worse than you, and other things you're going to wonder why on earth they do it at all. But that's the interesting thing about going to different countries, and you just have to just sort of grin and bear it sometimes. But we certainly didn't starve. And one big tip to anybody is if there's a group of 4 of you, only order 1 portion of rice.
Yes.
Enough for you, and the staff's going to have some to take home as well, because the portions are enormous. So don't make the mistake of ordering separate portions of everything, because you will end up feeding half the restaurant. So just share
and
meals.
Also, one of the other things, when you're out and about, people come up and talk to you, the questions they sometimes ask, you would definitely not ask in European countries. Because they'd start off, first thing is, what's your name? Where are you from? What's your age?
Yeah.
Which, you would never ask a total stranger in a European country, how old are you?
I made
you got so used to it.
But I had a lovely compliment at the, whatever it was, I can't remember, way up in the mountains. And he said to me, and how old are you? And I told him, and he said, I don't think so. I said, fine. Made me feel good. He thought I was very agile. I'll go with it.
I think just as Martin's just heading off, so he's just saying to thank you to all of you for your time and your feedback. Martin's actually going in September, so he's doing a slightly different tour to yourselves. He's doing what I call the hybrid. So he's doing a week in the mountains and then a week in the city. So he's doing Islamabad and Lahore. But so his tour would finish in Lahore. He wouldn't go further south like yourselves, like you did.
Oh, it's just fabulous. I loved it. And if he does have any more questions, he can ask.
Yeah.
Let us know and we can answer them.
Yeah. I think it's fair to warn that the visa applications process is probably work in progress. It's not as smooth as one would hope. We were actually talking to some other people who are not part of our group who were in a hotel in India. They had similar problems to some of us. So it's always a good idea to have a second email address, just in case the first application doesn't work. because often the verification code that you're supposed to get doesn't always arrive, and then you can't go any further because you haven't got the verification. So it can be slightly Kafkaesque. Hopefully they're going to improve it as time goes on, but it's not the smoothest of processes, but you do get there in the end.
Yeah, I mean,
we had absolutely no issues with ours. So I think it's very hit and miss.
As you say, inconsistent. I mean, you know, we, just on that, you know, if you do have issues, this is obviously more to the audience, just to say that, you know, because for one of the clients in this group, actually, I did the visa process for them. So the good thing is you don't necessarily have to be the person traveling to do it. You know, as an agency, we can do it. So if you aren't tech savvy or you have an issue, you know, we're always there to help. So don't worry about that. And then, so I mean, I think you've covered this, unless you feel there's anything left. So what tips would you give others consider going to Pakistan? Is there anything in addition to what you've already, so I know you've mentioned money in terms, you think about £400 for 16 days is fine. Talked about having the printout of the visa to make sure that's to hand. And if open-minded.
I mean, I found it slightly uncomfortable at some of the places there were no women ever to be seen, but that's a cultural thing, so I can do it. But you know, the women are completely shut away.
Was that more in the kind of the Multan, like more of the areas as you went to Sindh, where you saw some of the forts?
And Multan, yeah.
So, yes, and the ones that are a bit more or more conservative.
Very conservative. But no, it didn't upset me. But you just notice that, you know, there are no women. But all the men treated us in utmost courtesy. I can't fault that. They were.
So that's I mean, that's interesting, because obviously I get the question asked by women. You know, sometimes solo travelers. You know, how is it safe? I mean, obviously, I always say, because I've taken solo female travelers, it's perfectly safe. But you know, people may be cynical and say, well, you would say that you're being biased. So it'd be good to hear from yourself. You know, as women, how did you feel in Pakistan?
I felt fine, but then I wasn't traveling as a single woman. I don't know. I mean, our daughter travelled earlier this year as a single woman, and she felt fine. I don't know how I'd feel as a single woman, to be honest. No.
I suppose, you know, just as a female, then, you know, I think you said, Susan, that you felt that the men did treat you with respect. I mean,
yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. Rachel.
Yeah, I don't think any of us, to be honest, of whatever gender, in any way felt threatened, unwelcome. I mean, you're going to have problems anywhere in the world, and unfortunately, you know, we live in London. We're not, and you know, terrorism is not unknown here. Crime is not unknown. It's going to happen everywhere. And if you know, if people are worried about that, then frankly, they're not going to ever go anywhere. So yes, of course, there are problems there, but we were fortunate enough not to see any. And at no point did I feel personally unsafe, because it can be unsafe for men as well, of course. Did I feel unsafe? But maybe that was just the areas we were in. I don't know, but I think, you know, as Sue said right at the beginning, go with an open mind and be pleasantly surprised, I think, by so much that you come across.
Okay, great. Then I've got a question from Halima. She's saying, did you visit any gemstone markets? I know I mentioned one in Peshawar. I think you said you weren't interested, so.
No.
No. Having said that, actually, Amir did point them out to us, and you know, so we vaguely saw them, but just because we weren't interested, we didn't spend much time there.
I mean, the nice thing about him in particular, and I'm sure all the guys are probably the same, is if one person particularly wanted to see something or do something, unless it was really going to disrupt the entire day, and that happens. So I guess if somebody's on the trip and they particularly want to go to a gemstone market, then nobody else is particularly bothered, then I'm sure that will be possible, and everybody else will go along with it. So.
Yeah. I'm conscious that obviously we're coming up to an hour and I've taken a lot of your time. So just a few more questions. What did you think of the people of Pakistan? I think you've kind of have both kind of already spoken a fair bit about it.
They were very friendly.
There were a lot of them, I think. Some places you seem to meet just about everybody who's in the street. So very welcoming, very friendly.
Yeah. Warm, just inquisitive as well. But as Paul has said, at no point did we ever feel anything other than welcome.
And we're in lots of people's photo albums.
Yes.
Yes.
We're probably their third cousin 4 times removed.
Quite why people want to have their photo taken with a complete stranger is beyond me. But there we go. You will certainly not be short of requests to have your photo taken.
But conversely, because they want to take your photo, they're more than happy to have their photo taken. In fact, they often want you. So if you like taking photographs of people, it's paradise. Because on the odd occasion, a group of women would say no, but apart from that, people just love it. That's why we've got so many good photos.
I mean, the pictures were just amazing. They were beautiful. Right, so this is the kind of key question. Would you go back and would you recommend it?
Yes.
Yes.
Brilliant. Short and sweet. I like it. Fantastic. So a few people are just leaving, but they're all saying thank you so much to yourselves. They found this session very informative and really useful. I think that we've talked about the visa process, and so all I'm going to do is wrap it up to say thank you so much for your time and for really taking me on a virtual holiday to Pakistan over the 16 days you were there. And certainly when you were in Peshawar, I felt really homesick. And, when you visited kind of my cousins and went to their house. In fact, actually, we haven't touched on that. How did you find that experience?
Loved it.
They've got a very lovely house.
And family. And I asked, but I loved it. We saw your cousin's wedding photo.
Yeah, he did. And I think, did you see the video as well? He did mention
Yes.
Loved them.
Yeah, he did mention because we show the video, the wedding video, and I'm like, really? Like, no, they asked.
Me.
Oh, brilliant, fantastic.
And I bought pajamas.
Yes, she mentioned to me. You did have you used them yet?
Yes.
And Rachel, did you order a set then? Or
Yeah, but
sorry.
It never quite worked out because I ordered them a bit late and it was going to be difficult to get them to Karachi because we were only there for a short time, which is why I had to just go and buy lots of tops like this to make up for the appointment.
Had I known, I would have got them delivered to my husband and he would have brought it back with him. But hey-ho. So, well, thank you so much for those of you who have stayed and joined and watched us. We hope you found this useful. As you can see, none of this was scripted. It was very impromptu. Hopefully, Rachel, Paul, Dennis, Susan have given you really good insight to the holiday and the reality of what it's like in Pakistan. If you have been inspired and have been thinking about it and sitting on the bench, hopefully this will have convinced you that Pakistan is definitely a destination worth visiting. I've got the group tour dates there, so we've got a number of dates for this year and next year. So the next one we've got planned is in October, so the 10th to 25th of October. It's 16 days. We've already got 2 people booked, so we've got another 6 spaces, and then we've got one in December. Now, December is 14 days, so it excludes Peshawar, and that's mainly, as I said, because some people have seen Peshawar and either don't want to pay for the premium for the insurance or just a bit nervous. So upon request, we've had that. Now, I know that there is a lady who wants to do that, but she wants specifically to go to Peshawar. So if, for example, you wanted to join the December tour and you wanted to see Peshawar, you can actually have a 2-day extension. So arrive early so you can see Peshawar before the main tour starts. That's not a problem. And as I said, we've got one then next year in January to February, and then the following December. One of the questions just people ask me is that when's the best time to do this tour? And I think Rachel, Paul, Dennis, and you'll agree with me. I always say that I tend to do this tour between October and March, and I cut off for March. And that's mainly because although theoretically you could do it all year round, but when you go down south, it gets really hot. And if you were to do this tour in the summer months, you're talking about mid 40 to high 40 degree temperatures. And some of the places that yourselves been to are like archaeology sites, so there's no shade. So from a health and safety perspective, I don't think it's safe. Now I've only been to Lahore. I haven't gone beyond Lahore myself. So Rachel, Paul, and Susan, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we got up to 36 degrees on one day. Don't ask me where it was, but we hit 36 degrees.
And this is in February. So
yeah. So I no, not if you're going to be trekking round places. It'd be too hot. Too hot.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sparing the time and the effort. And as I said, thank you for taking me on a holiday. I've really enjoyed it. I've loved having you guys. And yeah, as a small business, actually, you know what, things like this really help us in terms of, real customer feedback and real customer reviews. So I do appreciate you taking time out from your evening and giving me that time. I hope you do come back to us, and go up north at some point. And we look forward to bringing you back to Pakistan at some point, hopefully. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Have a lovely evening.
Bye.
Bye.